When it comes to the life audit, each part of this is comprehensive and it actually involves working through a process and a methodology for evaluating what it is that you want out of life and then redesigning your life around these things which research validates bring significant well-being into your life. So the first one is actually on designing for autonomy or having a sense of control over your own life. So research suggests that autonomy might be the biggest driver of happiness. So how can you build more autonomy into your life? So first of all, you need to assess your own values and goals and review whether you are living your life according to these. So sometimes that can actually be a lot easier said than done. So for example, you might have oppressive parents, you might have an abusive partner, you might lack financial independence to escape from various pressures. So obviously there are no easy answers. But as a starting point, try to identify the spaces in your life where you currently lack autonomy. And in the event that it is possible to exert more control over them, strive to do so. And there's a process that we can work through together to help you to do that. And it involves looking at the resources in your life and uh, trying to figure out how we can apply those into solving some of the things that are holding you back in life. So another thing that you can do is to get better at saying no to things that don't add value to your life. So we need to establish the boundaries of what we do and do not want in our lives. So for example, I have a friend who feels he's susceptible to this practice of saying yes to things that he doesn't want to buy into. So one thing he does is he doesn't actually open his social media before 12 noon every day. And the reason is that he wants to have total control over his mornings and to maximize his productivity so that he is not swept into, other people's, lives and expectations and discussions and so on. So similarly, we need to find out how we can set boundaries in terms of what we are willing to say no to and what we are willing and what will benefit our lives by saying yes to it. And finally, even if it's difficult for us to introduce a lot of autonomy into our life, at the very least, we can try setting a daily intention for each day and working to fulfill it. We can ask ourselves, what is the one thing I can do today that would make today a success? What is the one thing I can do this week that would make this week a success, this month, this year? So what's really important is that you have that feeling, that the feeling that William Ernest Henley talked about in his poem Invictus, that I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Now, the next one is purpose. So research suggests that having a purpose for life generates the longest lasting form of happiness. So how do you find your purpose, or as they call it in Japan, your ikigai, your reason for being? So a community in Japan, in the place called Okinawa, the Okinawans, they have what is called an ikigai, and that is the reason that they were placed on this earth, their reason for being. And they are actually, that community is one of the world's longest living communities, which has a huge number of centenarians, people who are over 100 years old. And one reason for that is supposed to be the fact that they have this ikigai. They all can have a purpose in their life. And that's something that drives them, that fuels them, and gives their life a lot of wellness and well being. So, how can you find your own ikigai? So the many proponents of this concept advocate that your purpose can be found at the intersection of what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can make money doing. So this is again a process that we need to go into detail to explore, but that's something that I would love to do a deep dive into with you in the next workshop. Now, the next one is one of my favorite things, and it's another element that really makes life worth living, and it's an experience that the psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi calls flow. Now, I know his name looks like someone just thrashed their fingers on a keyboard, but he's actually a very well respected psychologist, and he's Hungarian American, which is, I think, the reason for his name. So he described this flow state. And this is a state of being where you feel deep enjoyment, creativity, and total involvement with life. And chances are you have already experienced it. So, for example, try to think back to a time where you had an experience where you were so fully involved in doing something that you didn't feel time passing, where you were working on something, maybe on a creative project, and you were so deeply involved in it that you forgot to eat. So this is what happens when you reach a state of flow. It's just so absorbed, you're so engaged in whatever work that you're doing that you don't want to do anything else, and just time just passes without you even noticing. So where does this flow state occur? It occurs when you are working on something where there is a happy balance between the level of challenge that you experience and your level of capability. So if the challenge level of an activity is too high, then you're going to feel stressed and overwhelmed if the capability that you have at the moment isn't meeting that challenge level. But on the flip side, if the challenge level is too low, it's below your capability, then you're going to feel bored. You're going to feel apathetic. But when you are working on a task that is difficult enough to be interesting, but that is also achievable, that is when you hit this amazing state of flow. And you can actually craft these flow states in your life by actively engaging in the hobbies and the work that you know from experience put you in that state. So you can increase your likelihood of experiencing flow by adjusting the dials on your experience to introduce the factors that produce flow. And the fourth one is your strengths, to use your strengths. Now, here I'm not talking about strengths like cooking and singing. I'm talking about your character strengths. So each of us has unique character strengths. So you might already know what yours are, but if you don't, and if you're thinking what strengths, I don't have any strengths, you do. So what I've shared the link to here is the VIA Character Strengths Survey. And you can take the quiz, it's free quiz. You can take a screenshot of this page, so you capture the link, and take this quiz and find out what your main character strengths are. And the reason I'm recommending VIA in particular is because they have the research that shows that using these character strengths, once you find out what yours are, using them on a daily basis is going to introduce more joy into your life. So maybe your strengths are things like social intelligence or curiosity or the ability to love and be loved, perspective wisdom, human playfulness. So there are many, many more, and you can find out what yours are. And once you do, if you use your character strengths on a regular basis, research validates that you will experience better physical and emotional well-being. And in fact, using your signature strengths has been shown to decrease depression for 6 months. So the logic is very simple and yet very powerful. The more that we use our signature strengths, the more we are being the best of ourselves. So in the next workshop that we do, we'll go into detail on how you can use each of your own specific character strengths on a daily basis. And finally, positive physiology, or in layman's terms, just acting happy. So research shows that even if you fake positivity, you will see real results in your well-being. And I'd like to tell you a funny story here about these researchers who did a study, and they asked two groups of people to watch the same movie. But one group, they asked them to hold a pencil between their teeth, and the other group just to watch the movie normally. And they found that the people who were holding the pencil between their teeth, they actually rated the movie as having been better than the people who didn't hold the pencil between their teeth. So how is that possible? Like, why does holding a pencil between your teeth make you have greater enjoyment of an experience? And the reason is that just to hold the pencil in that way forces your mouth into the shape of a smile. So that is how powerful smiling is. Like, just even move in your mouth into the shape of a smile can genuinely make you happier. So, worst case, keep a pencil with you at all times. So another thing that can affect your mood is even the way that you walk. So research shows that if you use slow or crouching movements, it's going to make you unhappier. Whereas if you take longer strides, if you hold your head high and you swing your arms, that's going to make you happier. And another thing that you can do is try acting like someone else. So for example, maybe you have a friend you admire who's, very positive or has certain traits that you admire. So you can just try acting like them. You don't need to tell them about it, but you could do that. Or you could try to act like the best version of yourself who has all the personality traits that you wish that you had, because the science actually says that you can come to have those traits simply by acting that way. And always try to remain active and to keep a normal routine going, because being inactive actually worsens depression. So I wouldn't go so far as to put it like this, but I've heard it said like people, like the question being raised, are you in bed because you're depressed, or are you depressed because you're in bed? Because when we wallow, uh, when we treat ourselves in a way that tells our body that we are unhappy, our body takes us seriously. But if we behave in a way where we try to maintain an active routine, we go out of our way to meet friends, to continue to set goals and to pursue them, we are actively looking after our hygiene. When we're doing those things, we're telling our bodies, we're physiologically priming ourselves that we are okay and that positivity is around the corner. So try to strive for that as you go through your days. So with that, we have explored the science of self-care and what really brings us joy and happiness. And to conclude, I just want to share with you a couple of tools that you can use. So one is actually a free app. It's called Uplift, and it uses the principles of cognitive behavioral therapy to help you to fight depression. So you can note the URL or take a screenshot. And the reason that I'm recommending this app versus any other is that it uses a science-backed methodology, and it has been shown that its users have cut their depression scores in half. Now, the other one is called Mind Ease, and it can help combat anxiety. So I have used this on stressful days when I wake up in the morning and my to-do list starts spinning nonstop in my head even before I'm fully conscious. And it absolutely helps. It has a simple calm me button, and it recommends a calming exercise as soon as you press it. And also these are some helplines, some psychologists, counselors, and psychiatrists who are there to help you locally in Sri Lanka. So you can take screenshots of these. And then finally, these are some institutions that are also available to help. So I know sometimes society gives us the impression that we have to solve our own problems, that we can't ask for help. But this is actually a denial of human history, and it's a denial of human nature. Because the truth is that we need each other. And I'm sure you've heard this story before because I've seen it going viral on social media. But it's a story of how the anthropologist Margaret Mead was asked by one of her students what she considered to be the first sign of civilization. And the student was actually expecting to hear about, clay pots or fish hooks or something like that. But Margaret Mead said that the first sign of civilization uh, was actually a femur or a thigh bone that had been broken and then healed, because it's evidence that someone had taken time to stay with the one who had fallen, had bound up their wound, had carried them to safety, and had tended them through recovery. And she said that helping someone else through difficulty is where civilization starts. So, yes, we need to learn to lean on our fellow humans. And likewise, we also need to try to be there for our fellow humans. And so, if there's anybody that you know who is unhappy and who is suffering from depression or anxiety, sometimes they may need a helping hand to even to pursue these activities. I've spoken with a friend of mine who's experienced extreme depression, and she was telling me, sometimes these things are difficult to do, and we need a partner's or somebody's support, a friend's support to help us to do these things. So, if you know somebody, help them to get some exercise in their life, help them to do some of these things that are going to help to make them feel better.